Hola muchachos, buenos días, buenas tardes, or buenas noches, depending on when you're watching this video. This is, I believe, our 8th um, virtual class. And don't believe I haven't noticed that in terms of introduction of new topics, this online part of the course has been very intense. So today I decided that we are not going to introduce a new topic. We're just going to dedicate this class to a review, okay? Uh, but please do watch the video nonetheless. I think it will be very useful for you, and also it's necessary for you to understand what the activity of the day is. So I've told you repeatedly, both in these videos and in the in-person part of the class, that I am big on verbs. I consider them very, very important for 101. So today we are going to review the regular verbs. Before we start our review, I'm just going to remind you of what a regular verb is, right? Verbs are the words that we use to talk about actions, and in Spanish, you have two big groups of verbs. You have the irregular verbs, which are the ones that do not follow a pattern and we need to memorize, like ser, right? Or tener. And then you have the regular verbs, which are the ones that follow a pattern. So we don't learn every single form of the verb, we only learn the pattern, right? So today we are going to review all the uh, patterns for regular verbs that we have studied. They're basically three. So I'll remind you of them one by one. First, we have the ar verbs, right? Here you have cantar, which means to sing. So remember that when we conjugate a regular verb, when we change it so that it matches the person or people who are doing the action, we follow a pattern that has three steps. First step is doing away with the last two letters of the infinitive. In this case, the A and the R, they go away. Then every conjugation of the verb has the part that is left after we get rid of the ending. That's called the stem of the verb, right? So as you can see here in the table, every conjugation has cant. And then we just add the endings. And the endings are the ones that change depending on what type of verb it is, right? So the endings for are verbs are o, as, a, amos, an. Therefore, the conjugation of the verb is canto, cantas, canta, cantamos, cantan, cantan, right? Now, let's look at another group of regular verbs that we already studied. It's the verbs. Same procedure. First, get rid of the last two letters of the infinitive, so the E and the R. The stem is the same throughout, and then we add the endings. Corro, corres, corre, corremos, corren, corren. And then the verbs, right? Exactly the same procedure. Get rid of the I and the R. We're left with viv, which is the stem of this particular verb, and then we add some endings. Vivo, vives, vive, vivimos, viven, viven. Let's look more closely at the endings of each of these groups of regular verbs, right? Because that is the one thing we need to memorize, right? That is the one thing that changes depending on what kind of a regular verb the one we're trying to conjugate is, right? So if it's an ar verb, we need to remember this set of endings. A, as, a, amos, an. If the verb is an verb, we need to remember es, hemos, en. And if the verb is an verb, we need to remember this set of endings, es, himos, en, right? So all of this we already know, right? I just wanted to remind you of it. And I think this particular slide can be very, very useful for you moving forward because it's basically um, a very concise synthesis of regular verbs in Spanish, right? You have the three basic groups of regular verbs, ar, er, and ir. You have an example of each of those conjugated, and then you have the endings for each of the groups, which is the one thing you need to memorize. So I recommend you use this for personal study. Okay, so after this short review, I'm going to show you an exercise that is very, very similar to an activity that I'm going to assign to you, okay? So these are 9 sentences in Spanish, and you will quickly notice that in the places in between brackets we have infinitives of the verbs, and then we have a blank, right? We did a couple exercises like these in the classroom, right? But I'm just going to remind you of how they work. We just basically need to fill in the blank with the correct conjugation of the verb between brackets, right? So let's look at the first example. Ella cantar muy bien. Basically what we need to do is figure out what form of cantar is the one we need, right? So what we do is we look at what we have before the brackets, okay? What we have here is ella. That of course means she, right? We learned that when we learned the personal pronouns. Ella means she. That means that we need the form of cantar for ella, right? Because ella, she, is the subject of this sentence. The subject being the person or people who do the action in the sentence, okay? So the first thing you do with this kind of exercise is look for the subject, look for the person or people who are doing the action. In this case, it's ella. That's a very clear hint that that form of the verb is the one we need, ella. So cantar is an ar verb, right? We get rid of the last 2 letters, we're left with cant. And then we have to add the ending for ella, which is a. So canta, canta, ella canta muy bien. That is the answer, okay? And we just need to repeat the same procedure with all the other sentences. Let's look at number 2. Nosotros escribir un correo electrónico. Now, what kind of verb is escribir? It's not an ar verb, right? It's not an er verb, it's an ir verb. How do I know that? Look at the ending of the infinitive between brackets. It ends in ir, right? It's an ir verb. Remember that ending of the infinitive is the one that tells you what type of regular verb it is, right? So this is an ir verb, right? Escribir. And the subject is nosotros, which means we, right? So we need the nosotros form of escribir. It's escribimos. Okay, nosotros escribimos un correo electrónico, we write an email. Número 3, el profesor enseñar español. What is the subject of this sentence? It's el profesor, the professor, okay? So this one is not perhaps as straightforward as the 2 first ones, but it's still easy, right? We don't have a personal pronoun here. What we have is el profesor, right? The professor. So we need to think, what form of the verb would we use for el profesor, right? So el profesor, what is that? Is it I? No. Is it we? No. Is it you guys? No. What is it? It's he, right? So we need the he form, the el form of the verb, right? And it's an ar verb. Get rid of the last 2 letters, right? So we're left with enseñe, and then we need to add an ending. What is the el ending for adverbs? A. So enseña. El profesor enseña español. The professor teaches Spanish. Número 4. Juan y Pedro trotar en el parque. Same thing as before, right? We're not told explicitly, right, what personal pronoun we need to use. So we need to think about Juan y Pedro. What is that? Is it I? No. Is it you? No. Juan y Pedro, it's a group of people. A group of people that does not include myself. So it's they, right? It's ellos. We need the ellos form of trotar. And trotar is an ar verb. Remember the ellos ending for adverbs? It's amos. Right? It's an, sorry. It's an. The ellos ending is an. So, trotan. Right? Ellos trotan. Juan y Pedro trotan en el parque. Juan and Pedro jog at the park. Mi padre vivir en Nueva York. Mi padre, remember the unit that we did about the family? Mi padre means my father, right? So again, like in el profesor, it's he. We're talking about he. So we need the el form of this verb. And this verb, it's an ir verb, not an ar verb. So we need the ending for ir verbs, right? Which is e, right? It's not a, it's e. Because it's not an ar verb, it's an ir verb. So the ending we need is e. Get rid of the last two letters of the infinitive, get rid of the I, get rid of the R. We're left with vive, and then we add the e ending vive. Mi padre vive en Nueva York. My father lives in New York. Number 6. Tu estudiar en Hostos. So, estudiar is an adverb, right? What is the ending for tu, for adverbs? It's as, right? So get rid of the R, get rid of the A, you're left with estudi, and then you add the as, estudias. Tu estudias en Hostos. Number 7, another adverb, it's trabajar. But now we don't need the tu form, we need the ustedes form, right? What is the ustedes ending? It's an, right? So trabajar, get rid of the R, get rid of the A. Ustedes trabajan en un restaurante. Mi perro ladrar muy fuerte. I know that this verb ladrar we haven't seen before. It means to bark, right? So it's very specific. Mi perro means my dog. So what would I use for my dog? Is it I? No, I'm not a dog. You're not a dog either, right? What is it? It's he or she, right? Depending on gender. So I need the el, ella form of the verb. And then ladrar, clearly it's an ar verb because it ends in ar, the infinitive. So I need the el or ella ending, which is a. Get rid of the a, get rid of the r, add the a ending, ladra. Mi perro ladra muy fuerte. My dog barks very loud. Last verb, yet another ar verb, bailar, which means to dance, right? Get rid of the R, get rid of the A, we're left with bail, which is the stem. And then mi hermana, again, remember the unit of the family, that means my sister, right? So what would I use for my sister when I'm talking about her? I would use ella, right? She, ella. So I need the ella ending, which is a. Add that a to the stem and you got baila. Mi hermana baila bachata. My sister dances bachata. So basically what we just did is first review the patterns of conjugation for regular verbs in Spanish, and then we started applying that to actual sentences. Okay? So what do you need to do in order to answer a question of this sort? First, you look up the verb between parentheses, and you figure out whether it's an ar, an er, or an ir verb. That's very easy because you just need to look at the ending. Right? If it ends in AR, it's an ar verb. If it ends in ER, it's an er verb. If it ends in IR, it's an ir verb. Right? Very easy. Then you look for the subject. You look for the person or people who are doing the action. And that's easy as well because they're always right before the brackets, right? You identify who is doing the action. You think about which form of the verb you need for that subject, right? Is it the yo form for I? Is it the tú form for you, one person? Is it the they form, ellos, right? You figure that out. You go to the table, you see what ending you need, and then you apply the pattern. Okay? Good. I know it's a lot, right? But this is absolutely essential for Spanish 101, right? And if you keep repeating it, you will notice that you'll become more and more familiar with these things with practice, and slowly they will become more natural, right? When you're first trying to memorize these things, it looks like a lot, but then, it becomes simpler with practice, right? So we're gonna do a little bit of practice with the activity of the day. What I am going to send you is a link to a series of questions. Do not worry, okay? This is not a test. It's not high stakes. It's just an activity like all the others you have done, right? But this one I've designed in a Google form, so I'll just send you a link. You'll click on that link. You'll go to a document that you need to fill in, and you will have 5 Spanish sentences that look just like this, right? A sentence that uses a regular verb. You have the verb in brackets, and then you need to fill in the blank with the correct form, okay? It's not going to be multiple choice. You do need to type, okay? But don't worry. Again, it's not a test. It's just an activity. I am going to look at your answers, but it's not like I am going to give you bad marks if you make mistakes, right? I just want us to practice this, okay? So do not worry. Just go to the link, click on it, and do your best, okay? Um, and last thing, I'm very, very glad to have been able to contact a couple of you that were sort of MIA. And to know that you guys are healthy and you've had some issues, but you're totally capable of continuing with the class, right? There's still a couple people that are missing action. To those people, and also to everyone, I want to remind you yet again not to freak out if you've been missing deadlines for the activities. I will accept them at any point that you send them. Of course, at any point you send them before the very end of the semester, right? But for now, just, if you're missing the first activity, just, go back to that video, do it, and send it to me. I'll accept it. I'll add that to your grade, okay? Good. So on the email that you got, telling you about the availability of this video, and also on Blackboard, if you go to Blackboard and look at the announcement, you will see both the link to this video and the link to the activity. Click on it. Don't freak out, it's not a test, just do it, and we'll see how you do. Okay? Gracias y hasta mañana.